We chose the Appalachian woods for Valentine's Day because it felt honest to who we were as a couple. We'd never been interested in crowded restaurants or forced romance, and camping had always been the one thing that made us feel close without trying. We'd spent dozens of weekends outdoors together in every season, and February didn't scare us. If anything, we liked how empty the trails were that time of year, how the woods felt stripped down to their bones. We parked just before sunset and hiked in with headlamps, following a route we'd walked once before. The campsite wasn't official, but it was familiar enough that we didn't hesitate when we saw the clearing. The ground was frozen hard, the trees bare, and the air still in a way that made sound travel farther than usual. Nothing about it felt wrong. That's important to say, because I've replayed that evening countless times, and there was no moment where I thought we should turn back. We set up camp quickly, our movements practiced and easy, talking about small things the way couples do when they're comfortable enough not to fill every silence. Dinner was simple, eaten close to the fire, with our knees nearly touching. The orange light making the woods beyond us disappear into darkness. It was quiet, but not an unsettling quiet, just the kind that comes with winter. It was Emily who noticed the first voice. She tilted her head slightly, like she was trying to place a sound that didn't quite fit, and asked if I'd heard someone say her name. Before I could answer, it happened again, clearer this time, carried from somewhere uphill to our left. It wasn't loud or urgent, just a calm, unmistakable Emily, spoken as if the person expected her to respond. My first thought was that someone might be lost, or maybe another camper who'd heard us earlier and was messing around. Although that explanation didn't sit well, even as it crossed my mind. February isn't exactly peak season for casual hikers, especially that far in. I stood up, called out to ask if someone needed help, and immediately felt how exposed my voice sounded against the stillness. Nothing answered me. No movement, no reply, not even the faint rustle of someone shifting their weight. Emily said the voice sounded wrong, not in tone exactly, but in how close it felt despite the distance. I told her voices carried strangely in cold air, and that it was probably nothing, but I could tell she wasn't reassured. When the voice called her name again from the same direction, exactly the same way, I felt something tighten in my chest that had nothing to do with fear and everything to do with recognition. Whoever it was hadn't asked for help, hadn't said anything else, hadn't even changed the way they spoke. Just her name, repeated like a test. We decided to put out the fire and head into the tent earlier than planned, not because we were panicking, but because the idea of sitting exposed in the open suddenly felt wrong in a way I couldn't articulate. Inside the tent, with the zippers closed and our headlamps off, the darkness felt heavier, as if it pressed inward instead of simply surrounding us. Every small sound felt magnified. The brush of fabric, our breathing, the distant creak of a tree shifting in the cold. That was when we heard my voice. It said her name, the way I always did when I wasn't trying to get her attention, just checking if she was listening. The cadence was perfect. The spacing between syllables was right. For a split second, my brain tried to accept it, and then the rejection hit so hard it made my stomach turn. I hadn't spoken. I was lying completely still beside her, and she knew it too. I could feel her grip tighten on my arm as the realization settled in. The voice came again, closer this time, and added words it hadn't used before, asking her to come over, saying it calmly, almost patiently, as if proximity would make it easier to obey. I told her not to answer, not to move, not to react in any way, and I meant it more urgently than I've ever meant anything. Whatever was out there wasn't trying to scare us. It was trying to get a response. We listened as something moved around the edge of the clearing, not heavy enough to snap branches, but not careful either, like it didn't understand why stealth mattered. It stopped near where our fire had been and made a sound that wasn't quite a laugh, more like an attempt at one. A short exhale that carried just enough shape to make my skin crawl. After that, it began experimenting. It tried Emily's mother's voice first, using a phrase she'd heard 1,000 times growing up, spoken without emotion, stripped of context, like words pulled from memory and laid out incorrectly. Emily stiffened beside me, her breathing shallow now, and I knew she was fighting the urge to respond on instinct alone. Then it went back to my voice, closer than before, right outside the tent, saying things that sounded reassuring, but made no sense when you really listened to them. At some point, I realized it was waiting, not stalking us, not circling endlessly, just pausing between attempts as if giving us time to make a mistake. I held my knife, even though I knew it was meaningless. A gesture meant more for my own sanity than any real defense. Running never crossed my mind. Deep down, I knew that movement was exactly what it wanted. We stayed like that until the sky began to lighten, the voices fading gradually, rather than stopping all at once, as if whatever it was lost interest when it realized we wouldn't engage. When I finally unzipped the tent, the clearing looked untouched. The frozen ground showed no tracks that made sense, no clear path in or out. The woods were silent again, but it wasn't the same silence as before. We packed without speaking and hiked out as soon as there was enough light to see the trail. Neither of us tried to explain it, and neither of us suggested going back. Some experiences don't need interpretation to be understood. We broke up months later, for reasons that had nothing to do with that night, but I know that night changed something fundamental between us, the way shared fear sometimes does. I still camp. I still love the woods, but I'm careful now in a way I wasn't before. And no matter where I am, I never answer my name unless I can see who's calling it. Thanks for watching No Sleep Tonight. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It truly helps this channel grow. And if you want more unsettling stories, there are 2 more waiting for you on the screen right now. I'll see you in the next video. And until then, sleep well.